All right, Mr. Gabriel Marin
How you doing, man?
from Consider the Source.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
good to
sir.
have you, dude. So
Yeah, man.
it's so funny because you're like you guys are the band that whenever we're on tour, they're like, you should play with Consider. Did you guys ever hear Consider the Source? And they
That's a mutual thing. That's a
yeah,
mutual thing.
yeah, because we do the same circuit around the same time, and it's so funny because it's weird that like we're getting lumped together in this thing, but I think in terms of approach, there can't be bands that are more different than our
Right.
bands.
But it's like when you don't have much of a frame of reference, that it's kind of the thing. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way
Yeah,
that, like, I mean, I remember when we first started touring, people would have like they would go, there's this like one White Zombie song where they have like a sitar sample. You guys kind of like people would say that. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
Like no one had a frame of, and so now people what they do and they see you out there ripping it up. They see us out there ripping it up, and they're like, oh, these guys rip it up.
Right.
So,
That
so
that's like
they just
that's our comment.
just
That's a
match up.
stylistic
Yeah,
thread, like
yeah,
shredding.
yeah.
Well,
Improvise,
awesome.
but not
If,
just shredding, because there's people that do like more of like a metal shred. We both like improvise shred, and that's
mhm.
not a. There's not that many people that shred provise. So I guess that's what it
Shred
is.
provise, yeah, shred
Yeah,
improvisation.
yeah.
That's funny. So, you guys started when? Like, when the band come together?
Man, it's been it's been a while
So,
since we've been doing this, but it was
what
such
year?
a. I don't really remember. I people say 2004, 2005,
Hmm.
but it was such like a loose thing because when we first started, it was like we met in just like we met in a weird way. Like we knew of each other when we were in high school. Our because we were both like I was in a we but like that was just because we were both in like bands that played the scene and shit like that.
This is you
But
and John Ferreira, right?
and our original drummer Justin Hine, they grew up together. So
Hmm.
they were in a band called Subsist, and I was in another band called New Mexicans, which was an embarrassing name. Earth Stood Still, and we kind of and that was the later band, and then we would play shows together and stuff. And we played a show, and I remember being like, "Those guys are good, man." I remember seeing John play, and he had his old John hair, and I had my old thing, and I remember being like that guy. And then me and Justin ended up jamming at a party, and it hit immediately, just doing like the Easterny sort of stuff. And he was like,
Hmm.
"We should jam," and I was like, "Yo, bring that guy that played bass with you in your band. He was awesome." And then we
Yeah.
just jammed, and like, and that so, but it was so loose, we would play once a month for a while, and then like it
Mm.
grew from there.
So let's start from like actually before then, like your beginnings. And I'm assuming you have a background in like, rock kind of
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
So did the guitar thing and the music thing start from there and then took the Eastern turn, or what was the beginning like for you?
Well, it was like I didn't play guitar till late. I didn't like guitar. Like when I
Mm.
was young, I played piano. I played like jazz and classical piano from the time I was young. And rock was just because I would just see like my friends that liked rock when like in middle school, like elementary school, were like just idiots sometimes. They would have like a picture of like Poison on the wall, and I'd be like, I'm not into like this whole thing. Like that rubbed me the wrong way. The whole thing, like the dude's
Don't like
hair.
dudes in leather tights?
Yeah, I was young and I was just like, man, I'm not into this. There's something about it. And then I remember I heard like Alice in Chains, and I was like, all of that was like the first rock music that I heard that had like the weight of like the classical music or the jazz. It's totally different, but it sounded like, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm gonna play guitar, and that's just what I'm gonna do. I was like
Huh.
16, but it was like,
Yeah.
and then by the time I was like 17, I could play like Yngwie songs. It went like it was
Hmm.
quick. It was a
Hmm.
quick thing because I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I stopped playing piano. I stopped everything else, and I was like, this is me now. It just kind of like a switch flipped. It was funny.
I had a similar experience because for me it happened when I was around 15, with Metallica, or well,
Okay.
really 13 with Metallica, but like, the guitar happened around 14, 15.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like the sound of the electric guitar and then like this musical thirst with that distorted sound in the center.
Right.
So
Yeah.
just like, for me it was Kirk Hammett to Steve Vai to
Yeah,
Yngwie
man.
to Scott Henderson, just like you go down this path and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, but that sound of electricity in the
It's
center of it.
love it,
It
man.
gra-
It's there's something about it that just like, especially I still hear it. I remember I heard it was Wood. The song Wood by
mm,
Alice in Chains. And I still hear that tune, and every time I hear it, I'm like, it's so cool. Everything about it's cool. It's just everything about it is just awesome, and the guitar
Yeah.
was just like great and so vibey and like bendy and weird and stuff. It's such a perfect such a perfect thing, for that sort of stuff. Jerry Cantrell was like the master of that stuff.
Sure.
I remember like I saw them on their first reunion tour.
How was it?
It was amazing. I haven't been to a rock show besides that in like 15 years because I just don't like much stuff. And I saw them, and it was a smaller room. It was a room that we had played, and like just I was watching him, and his hands were like he played so much less than we would want to play, and it was
Yeah.
perfect. Like I was watching him play the rhythm parts, and it was just like that. It was like so simple, and it was like just right behind the beat, and it was perfect. It was like, all right, you do that thing fucking so well.
Yeah, I can't like not shred all the time. It's like it's really hard for me. It's like, if I'm holding a guitar, I like want to do everything I know
Yeah.
all the time. I don't have that
Yeah.
ability like
Yeah.
go go
Yeah.
go. Just
I like doing
then
a lot
like
of slow stuff, but I'm still making a lot of sound because I have all the effects. So I'll hold a note, but by holding that note, it's like, all
right.
sorts of
There's
stuff
a lot of
happening.
shit
So
going on.
I may not be doing a lot physically, but a lot of sound is still being produced.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. It's about occupying space.
Yeah.
And it's like some people are just fine playing like a small part and just like, this is my area. Like keep going. Then like enjoy riding the wave of the groove.
Yeah.
In my world, it's very different.
See, I played like a piece jazz thing for a while, and I loved being like a horn thing where I would play and then I would stop playing. And I have no problem not playing, but when I play, I want to go in. You know what I'm saying?
So just
Like, I wanna
taking
go
breaths.
Yeah, I'm
in
totally
the
cool to
phrasing.
hang out and let someone else solo and be like, yeah, that's awesome, and then go and like occasionally like. But I like to interact otherwise. But there is something that's fun to be like. I have done stuff like that with like sort of like African style gigs where like you get like one thing, and it's one part, and it's a weird interlocking part, and you're gonna play that one part for like 8 minutes. There's like a discipline in that. It's not something I want
Absolutely.
to play, but like it's such a good to be able to still do that and still stay in the right like behind the beat thing and not like leave your space. It's it's a challenge.
It's big time. I mean, you gotta. I mean, you grow up with a certain kind of mentality of what music is and what soloing is. And for me, it's always been the one thing that really caught from the 80s that really stuck in my playing is what a guitar solo should be. You know what I mean? There's like an epicness to it.
Yeah.
You want to get to this place.
Yeah.
And the roles are defined. And in African music, the roles are so there's no star of the show. It's just like creating this interlocking thing between tons of parts.
And well, it's funny because like the same thing. Like I remember like there's that epic guitar solo and it ends with like a big thing, and then as like for me, like once I got into like the free jazz stuff, I was like, oh, that sonic world of like when the horns shriek and enter those things, that's one more stage of like expressive epicness. Like you have the bends and then you want to do more sometimes, and that's when like just the sounds come in. So, like, often my solos will end with just like shrieking sounds where like I'm physically screaming while I do it. I lose my voice on stage a lot, like which is funny. Like, we're and I come off stage and people are like, why are you so raspy? It's like, man, I was screaming like a fair amount. It happens.
That's funny. So you're 17, 18, you're playing Yngwie stuff.
Yeah.
When does the Eastern influence start coming in?
Right off from the very, very get-go. I remember in my very first guitar lesson I went to wanting to learn some of that things, but my teacher was just like, I don't know how to do that, but I can teach you how to. Have you ever heard of George Lynch? And I was like, no. And then he was like, my first teacher, this guy named Danny Wacker, who was awesome, he's a great shredder, you should check it out, was turned me on to all the 80s things. He would give me cassettes because we were cassettes, a mixed cassette, and it would have like Dokken and
that's great guitar playing.
What's a White Lion solo with all the bends in it, Wait or whatever, all the classic 80s solos, and they were like, all right, I never liked that music. I never connected with the music. I was always like, I'm really not into this, but the playing was great. But I was listening to like Soundgarden and Tool and like Alice in Chains. But I always had like a big interest in the Eastern stuff. I grew up, learning a lot of the accordion stuff, so I always was like, I had that sound in my head. I love that stuff. And then, for whatever reason, I just love the Indian music since youngness, and so
Sure.
I always wanted to do that. Like, my first band's first recording, one of the solos, which is me trying to do a Chinesey sounding thing, and the other one's me trying to do an Indian sounding thing. Like, so right off the bat.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
so
you're
it was just kind of like actually being like, oh, this is a lifetime of work to master each of these. So like,
well, you're taking because I always feel like learning how to play like Django or like Louis Armstrong is a lifetime of
of
work,
course,
and
exactly.
you're tackling the whole world,
Right.
like these
But
like infinitely deep cultures, like
it
tons
is.
of them.
And like, but the thing is, so like, that's like for the last like 15 years of my playing, that's mostly what I play. The only Western stuff that I play is like CTS stuff, or the stuff that we write, or like the stuff that I would write outside that, or like free jazz stuff. I love that, and I play
Hmm.
that, but like, yeah, it's like, I've spent 0 minutes practicing playing over chord changes. I've
Bebop.
spent 0 minutes practicing with a swing rhythm. I've spent
Yeah.
zero time, like, I don't know if I've ever really played a 1-4-5 seriously.
Well, this is really why it's wonderful to have you
So
here
it's like,
because it's so
but
so much contrast in approach,
exactly,
right?
but it's still like, we both try to always improve and
Of
on our
course.
instruments and do stuff that's like pushing it, but like, for a reason.
So where should a person that's interested in playing fretless and
Yeah,
playing the style of music that you play, well, I mean, let's kind of and consider the source. Not
yeah,
you do a ton of other things, like you play a ton of instruments,
yeah.
but where's a good place to start developing some sort of ear? Because even when I talk about music, my music system doesn't account for, like I always say when I have to define a scale for the purpose of playing over chord changes, is that there are 5 rules to what makes a scale, and two of the rules is one of them that notes always cycle by the octave, so you don't have
Right,
any 2 octave scales, and number 2 is that a half step is the smallest interval.
right.
Right? For the scales we use, there's no room for that kind of thing because everything's with moving harmony. But once we don't have like where would you start if you
But
were
not
doing it
just
again?
that. 'Cause I remember talking to you about guitar one night. We were hanging out because we're nerds like that. And I was asking you a question about some stuff that you were doing. And the way you were expressing the way you think about it, you were saying, like, here's a chord. And on top of that, like a D7. And on top of that, I would play like a harmonic minor or something like that. Right.
Hmm.
And I never would think about that. I would always think about even if it's a totally weird thing in relation to the one. Like,
Mm.
everything is so modal for me that it's always like the relationship to the one. Even if it's like a modulation sort of thing, it's the one. You have the root, and so there's
And then
everything.
you're just thinking about like a series of intervals and how they interact with one, sort of.
Yeah, basically, the system that I work on is, since I play so much music from different cultures, I basically have come apart that I mostly divide like a whole step into 8 things. So it's like,
A
so
whole step into 8 things.
yeah,
Okay.
because you could make it like the root, a quarter step, the half step, a quarter step, then the major second,
Right.
or then you divide the quarter step in an additional half.
So you have okay.
Like,
How would you use it? Like,
well, so
could you,
like that's just so that's just kind of like the system, like, but that's not the precise system for the different things. If I'm playing like Turkish music, if I'm playing Persian music, if I'm playing that stuff, like it's different than that. And like, I'll always like, whoever I'm playing with, I'm normally in that, when I get hired for that sort of music, it's an accompanist sort of role, or a co-leading sort of role, in which case I'll always cede the microtonal stuff to the person from that culture, and I'll just be like, how do you tune the second here? And then I'll be like, okay, I got it. And then I'll know where it is, because I played with people from different cultures that they are very certain that their version of this scale is the right one.
Sure.
And I'm
Well,
very
I mean,
certain.
it's they've played it their whole lives. It sounds
Right.
right to them, right? They know what it should
Exactly.
sound
And so
like.
a Turkish player and a Syrian player will intonate things differently and have
Hmm.
like a meaning behind that. Whereas I don't have the skin in the game there, so I'm not going to argue. I'll be like, cool, you tune it that way. I'm going to play it that way when I play with you. Oh, you tune it
Yeah.
that way. I'll play it that way when I play with you because as someone that came from the Eastern European stuff, I have more of my own feelings on, but the other stuff is like as someone coming from the outside, I'll always see to be like, oh, that's how you do it. Cool, let's do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a fascinating thing. I mean, it's that like the disagreements between musical cultures are
Yeah.
even at the level of tuning.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like Mississippi blues and like Chicago or something, other blues were different, right? Now
Hmm.
imagine that developed for 800 years.
Right. So the kind of veering off that we do early
Right.
on lead to very,
Right.
very, very different.
And that's before recordings and like so like there have been way slower sort of things. So if that case, a Mississippi guy may have bent the minor third up like this, and a dude from Texas may have bent the minor thirds like that, and that was that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's just
Sure.
how they
You
develop.
probably
Like,
look like an alien to them. Show up with like a double neck electric guitar,
yeah,
letting
no,
go of
I've
jazz.
definitely been. That's why I have an extra pressure to be able to do it like right in a lot
Hmm.
of ways because like
You're being judged. They're
yeah,
they're,
and
they're noticing.
they're gonna notice and like I want to do my own thing, but I want to be like, check it out. I know what I'm doing. I don't want to just be like, oh, you're doing this wrong. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Want to be like, I can do this, and then there's other things that I can do.
Interesting. So, what would be like? I guess a good exercise getting your dipping your toes in this. Like if you're just starting out and you want to develop some sort of sense of some sort of inflection,
Yeah.
microtonal thing in your playing. Like
Well,
what's an easy to hear kind of thing to start off with?
well, is pick a style and a region and listen to that exclusively for a long time. That's
And
really the only way of doing it natural. Cause like for me, I was always learning so much stuff that it was really the best time was like would be like, okay, I have like for this period of time, all I want to listen to is Turkish stuff.
mm,
And that would be that. And I'd only listen to that and play that. And I'd be obsessed with that. And I'll get real big leaps in that. And then I'd be like, okay, for a long time, not like a week. This was like, a long time.
months, yeah.
And yeah, or for like the South Indian stuff, there's years. Indian stuff was years, and and like it would just really listen to that. And so my music listening is that's mostly what I listen to
Hmm.
is Eastern stuff. That's just what I choose to listen to. And there's some of it that I listen to for scientific purposes. I listen to field recordings to figure out songs I want to cover, or like inflections to learn and stuff like that. I get a lot of like, field recording things or UNESCO recordings that aren't the greatest quality. And sometimes the music isn't always great, but it's like some village thing, and you're like, that song is awesome. Let's
Mm,
do a version of that.
mm.
Or like that those slides are crazy, let me sit there and figure that thing out for a while or something.
Well, it's very cool that you bring it back, with the consider the source stuff, so it's like whatever it's
Right.
like, you go and you study this thing and then you have a home for it and it's all
Right.
coming feeding into your music.
Well,
And I
that's the
think that
coolest thing.
that that's the purpose of the band.
Yeah, well, that's the coolest thing about CTS is that we all bring our elements to it, and it's like, because it's not like if you would hear what I'm saying so far, and then you listen to us, you'd expect everything to be super Eastern sounding, but it's not at all. Like a third of the songs we do are like traditional, and then some of the songs that we do are influenced by that, but for the elements that I bring to the table, it's always there, even if it's like in a subtle way. So even if I write something that's harmonically Eastern sounding, the rhythmic way I approach stuff just comes from that. Or if I'm writing a melody over something that John wrote, the way I'm inflecting the melody with the slides is that's just how I play.
Mm. So let's talk about writing. Like
Yeah.
how because in Marbin, when I write a song, I
Yeah.
just write chord changes and I write a melody with a
Right.
pencil, and that's the song. And then
Right.
I bring that piece of paper in, and then
Yeah.
you know, usually we take it from there. Like, what's the
Right.
writing process look like for you guys?
So I don't think we've ever written anything down on paper ever.
No. So what do you do?
It's like, I think maybe we'll
Do you
like
record?
we chart parts out on plates, which is a funny thing because our part
Plates?
song have like, we had, for some reason we did it once, we were like doing a thing, we had no paper, and so we just started like writing this song structure on these paper plates, was the only thing we had, and I just started being like, now this is just what we do from now on because it's funny. And so we just have like, because our songs have a lot of parts, but we structure them kind of like long pop songs. It would be verse, pre-chorus 1, pre-chorus 2, riff, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. You know what I'm saying? We'll have,
That I saw like a Dream Theater interview, and they described some of their songs as epics, and they all did it with a straight face. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, oh, so yeah, this one is an epic. It has and I was like just looking around, like to see if it registers on their face how funny it is to call one of your songs an epic. No. But they're all totally used to it.
Yeah, I mean, if we write something under 7 minutes, it's a short song.
Right. But then like, you have epics.
Right. Then you have like the 12, 18-minute sort of things where, and the funniest part is those are normally the ones without the jams. Like the ones that are really long are the ones
just
that are like
tons of sections.
Yeah, that's just like, all right, we're gonna go all in on this one. Like the ones that are like 10 minutes are the ones that are like a 5-6 minute song with like a 5-6 minute solo or something.
Okay, let's get back to the music later. I want to know
stuff. So the writing shit is weird.
Oh yeah, right.
Write together always. Right. It's like
the three of you.
Even if someone brings in like a completed their part of a song, kind of from beginning to end. We'll try, we really try everyone's idea. If everyone is like, let's try this, we'll try it.
Well, I mean, you specifically would be an impossible guy to write for. Like, nobody in your band really understands your instrument but you. You know what I mean?
Like, the thing is, they like, so I'm good with melody. And so some John will bring in a melody to me, but often he'll bring in like a melody that's like, this is the skeleton of the melody. And I'll do your thing with it. And I'll do my thing with it.
So you develop things, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be like, this is how, or I'll give him something and be like, this is what I would do if I was the rhythm guitar player. I'm not going to play that because I'm going to play the vocal line. This is what I would do if I was the rhythm guitar player. Now you do something with that and a bass line together somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, John's the guy for that, for sure.
Exactly. So it's like, well, we know that we can, like, we know what each other's strengths are. So we don't have to complete. Like he'll like, this, it'll be like, do your thing with this. This is the loose idea that I had for it. Whereas if there's another band, it would be easy to be like, no, this is what you play. You know what I'm saying? We could all do that. But the cool thing about this band is that we really want all three of us to try to have, equal say in all the songs. So they're all like, all songs are kind of viewed as our songs, even no matter who brought it
in. Democracy.
Yeah, man, it's cool. That's the nice thing about it is like, it's hard because when I was young, I came in very much from like the perspective of I'm going to be the guy that writes everything in the band and that's that. And then coming into this group being like, no, let's do the opposite. It's made me a way better person in every respect because like things are hard sometimes and it's always better. Like I remember bringing in like a ballad on our first album, and then they turned in like a drum and bass thing, and it's so much cooler. And I started being like, okay, this is what I got to do. Hands off.
It's very funny because your band, like the influence you draw are from totalitarian countries, and you have a democratic system.
Yeah.
And we draw music from countries that are free, and we're dictators.
Hey, everyone wants the opposite. You know what I'm saying? Everyone wants the opposite because by nature I'm very totalitarian about things, and that's why it's so much better to be in this situation where like it's definitely grown a lot to be able to do that in other areas of life, to be able to be like, no, this is important to listen and shit, and not just be like, I'm right all the time.
So let's start talking road. First of all, what was your scariest experience? When were you the most terrified in a night on the road? Remember being scared?
There have been there's a couple. So I remember once being in like a southern scary place, and someone told our merch person to, you thank that guitar player for 9/11.
Oh my god.
Being like, oh, am I gonna like after the show being like, oh shit, am I gonna have to like fuck up some rednecks right now? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this gonna be like a real life sort of situation?
So that didn't turn out that way.
No, luckily, you know, I've had some real intense looks given to me by people, but
Yeah.
I'm a real intense looking guy.
All right. Well, that's
So
one.
thankfully, I've
And
always been able to just kind of like be solid about that situation and never have to deal with that because, like, you know, I'm just there to play music and stuff. You know, people get scared of that shit sometimes. But that was back in the day. We don't do like the really like small cities anymore. We've learned that like we'll do great in the big cities, but some small cities, but sometimes like mountain cities or something like that, there'll be a little bit. I'll start and people are just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, the vibe really just changed like an awful lot. You know what I'm saying? The vibe just changed.
That's
There
so
have been
funny.
some scary like.
You need to learn some Hank Williams Sr. Fuck with him, just like ornament it.
Yeah. Driving wise, there've been like we're all safe drivers, luckily. So it's like, you know, a lot of breakdowns, a lot of stuff.
I heard your van just died.
Oh yeah.
That,
I mean,
how? Yeah, that guy was. I remember like 2 years ago, the guy told you it's like this thing's about to die, and you're like, all right.
No, I think this is a different. We've had this is our third van, I think. This is Van Aykroyd. Our last one was a Stevie Ray Vaughan, which I thought was a good.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
That was a
I like that.
But I like
Love
Van Aykroyd. That has a good nerd list to it. But yeah, the engine just died. But we got a new engine. You know, it's like it's part of being in a band, and it's one of those things where it's one of the moments where you feel most like you've made it in some ways when you're like, oh, we have a problem, deal with it, and you keep on going. Mm-hmm. And it's not like fuck this, you know what I'm saying? You're like,
yeah. If you're one of those bands that breaks down and the tour's over, you're a pussy.
Yeah, or just like, sometimes just like you can't deal with it, or you don't deal with what you do, but like all your money you made goes to that or something. You know what I'm saying? Like and we've been there. I remember like, you know,
we've been there.
You lose money on tour, then you break even, you know, and that's just how it is, man. You know, and like if you run a business, your thing that you work with is going to break.
Sure. Yeah.
And
the
van is
that's
factored in.
Equipment
breaks a shitload. I mean, like.
Well, you're walking with a lot of stuff. Unbelievable.
Like pedals sometimes on the floor. The chances that something is gonna that every pedal is gonna last till the end of the tour is zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
You must be good at like diagnosing where the problem is by now.
Like, I don't want to break an arm jerking myself off here, but like I'm real good at like telling when things are, because I've been through everything. I've had every possible thing that could die, including this last tour when I had the one thing that I had never dealt with before die. The one thing, like the control brain, my loop switcher that everything goes into, died at like the Fox Theater in Boulder. It was like a big show. We were like, and it was just like, so I had to play like 3/4 of a set with just a distortion pedal and a clean sound.
Oof.
For
how'd that feel?
It was like that was a bit like that was a bit of a. You got through it though. Got through it. I was just like, all right, I'm not gonna not play.
Right. You got to do what you got to do. Yeah, that's rough. I remember I had my big amp die in a show in Wichita, and this jazz guy had like a 10-watt transistor amp, and it's like I was just all right.
Dude, you'll appreciate this. I remember we played in Haifa, in Israel. And our rider for overseas, because I remember the first tour we did of Israel, like no one seemed to understand the Fender tube amp thing I was asking. So I was like, give me any amp with tubes, hopefully not a Marshall, at least a 10-inch speaker. That was it. I was very loose. I got to this gig, and we do well in Haifa. It was going to be a big thing. And they had a digital pig nose this big. And they gave it to me. And we thought it was a joke. And I was like, word, good. Where's the amp? And they were like, no. And I was just like, and then John's bass amp had like a 10-inch speaker. And so I had like a 5-inch speaker. He had a 10-inch speaker. And it was just like one of those moments where it's just like, fine, this is it. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? You're just like, it's when you're presented with something that's so profoundly not what it should be, you can either throw a fit or you can just be like, it is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you really hard for this, but we're going to make this happen right now. And so
How's the show?
I took a chair and I put the chair behind me and I had the little amp on the chair and the microphone was as big as the amp. And I was just like, all right, give me like as much as you can in the monitor. And it was like nothing. And I was like, just please make sure that it's in the house a lot. Just like we're instrumental. Just make sure that it's heard in the house. And I'll do my best. Like I was playing fretless. I couldn't hear I was like, I hope I'm in tune. Like it was one of those things. And everyone thought it was cool. Everyone thought it was a joke. They were like, where's your real amp? And I was like, that's
hilarious. So
$1
when you fly, how do you do it? You have like so many pedals. Like
Yeah,
what do you
flying
bring?
is hard for me. Flying is rough for a lot of reasons for me.
Oh, you don't like flying too?
I like flying. I just get hassled a lot.
Oh.
And so we will choose a set, and I'll choose the pedals to play that specific set.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So I'll bring like a multi-effector, like a Line 6 multi-effector that can do all delay, phaser, flangeriness, core, like reverb, blooper. So I'll have that, and then I'll bring like distortion pedal, volume pedal, a pitch shifter, then something that I need, a glitchy thing or something that I need for that, and one synth and a top neck synth. And
awesome.
I can pack all that in a suitcase with my clothing and be.
So let's start talking about like you guys earlier. So what year is it that you start hitting the road? I can really
2009. When I look at like videos and stuff, it seems 2009 was the first year that we were like,
all right, let's do this kind of.
Yeah. Because it feels like I've been on tour the last like 10 years about it.
Yeah, and what was the beginning like? You guys were just driving bar to bar like us?
Well, so luckily, like our original drummer Justin and John were both very proactive about making a tour happen, which is great. And they just contacted bands on MySpace and venues and stuff and book like a 6-week. We would do like stuff where we would contact bands in cities. So we started just playing. I'm gonna backtrack. We started playing things in New York and the surrounding region, and people started paying attention to it, which was we did not think would happen. Like we thought we were, and all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, this is going to be our band doing this cool stuff. And then we started to we would reach out to bands, and we were like, let's find like-minded bands, and and then but we found this band called Infinian from Philly. It was awesome. And this old band called Complex from Wisconsin, who we actually named a song after. And they were like instrumental or like weird things. And like we just reached out and like, we'll put you in people in New York City. You put us in front of people in your city. And we
so we started the gig swap thing.
Yeah. And then we kind of did a cross country, 8-week tour once. And then we did another cross country, 8-week tour where we were like, all right, so this is the deal. We're going to go to the Warped Tour, and we're going to set up at 8 in the morning in the parking lot, because when we were kids, the Warped Tour was like a really wide variety of music, and cool people were there, and they were all online, and bands had done that, and it was cool. So we were like, let's do this. So we would...
Ballsy.
So ballsy. So it gets more ballsy. And so we didn't realize that by that point, the Warped Tour was just emo. It was just kids with slanty haircuts. It literally looked like one of those shitty animation things where they just keep on reusing the same people. It would be like a group of 9 people, and they would just keep on reusing the same 9, right? So it's just like, oh, I don't know if these cats are necessarily going to be in, but fuck it, we're going to do it. So we set up, and then we played, and it was just like, I don't know if they weren't into it, because they were just it was just a non-thing. They were just like... It was like playing, it was like one of those things when you see people play corn for cows. You know what I'm saying? That's really mean.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful analogy.
Man. It was like that. And I was like, oh shit, that went alarmingly bad. So let's do that again. So we did it a couple times, and it just wasn't good. And then we were eventually like, you know what? We have huge balls because we're 25. Let's just carry our equipment into the Warped Tour, set up our own tent stage, and just play sets. And
you did that?
And we did that. And I remember opening because my eyes are closed when I play. I remember opening my eyes and there just being circle of security around us. And just being like, they were so mad. They were like, consider the source will never play the Warped Tour. I was like, fuck your tour anyway, son. You think, you think this was a growth industry for us anyway? So that was
That's
early tour
unbelievable.
life. So that's we just kind of started like just like that.
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was. But then the one problem was then we had like a week and a half. We were like that was like in San Francisco or somewhere, like as far away from home as possible. And our next batch of shows was like a week and a half later in like Texas or some shit. We were just like, fuck. So we did like open mics. We just found like mad open mics. And what would happen is we would show up and play like 2 songs, and they would just be like, we're gonna cancel the open mic. You guys can just play a set. And then we would just play a set. And then they would be like, all right, next time you can play a show here. And then we would, maybe hope that. So that ended up actually being kind of like, we ended up actually having some cool stuff that came from that. So double fuck that situation.
Yeah. In Marbin, we used to have a thing we called guerrilla shows. We'd always whenever it would be like a Monday in our early days, and we'd be out obviously somewhere far away from Mississippi. Yeah. And we just go out, it would be like 7 p.m. and we'd go up looking for guerrilla shows, meaning go venue to venue, being like, can we play a show tonight? Can you play a show? They're like, fuck no, you can't play a show. Just some bar. They'd be like, what do you guys sound like? We'd have to like sell ourselves to the bartender lady. It's like, like we play like jazz rock,
I'm sure you're like us. Our description of ourselves changes by the person you're talking to, because like there's no real way to describe it. So you like, this is the way that you would understand it best.
I love to describe us as fusion for people who like fusion.
Right.
But
right.
But for everybody else, it's tough.
Have you ever skipped out on? Have you ever, in all your years, because you guys are even more hardcore than we are about doing shit. We take days off because like
we don't take days off.
Right. Exactly. Have you ever gone to a spot and been like, nah, and just bounced? Been like, not this place.
No.
Once we did one.
What? Which one?
I think it was somewhere in Florida, maybe Jacksonville, Florida, way back in the day. We got to this spot and it was like clearly like, even as far as like punk rock venues go, it was for like the dirtiest of the dirty punk rocks. And it was just like, okay, so this is strike 1 for us, our music. Local band dropped off the bill. Strike 2. Bartender was like, yeah, no one's going to come up tonight. I mean, I have a couple of crust punk friends I could call. And I was like, crust punks, our music, flea, bar, you know what? I'm going to call the one audible. And we were all like, yeah, guys, let's.
Sometimes, I mean.
That was the only time.
I think we would we had shows where it was like clearly not like, but when nobody would come to see us, and it was also clearly like not a like destination, like they had no regulars. It was just it was like like a destination venue, and they'd book us and there'd be no people there, and they're just like, yeah, there's not gonna I think it was more like kind of a common decision with the venue, like you better not play tonight.
Yeah.
That did happen. But yeah, I mean, we played some. To me, it's the funniest thing was when we had like 2 black guys in the band, and it was like me and Dani, and we just play like a straight up biker bar in the south, in the deep south. We did that a lot, and it was we'd set up, and I'm just looking around. But I felt like most of it was like in our minds, because the moment we started playing, it was just like fine.
Yeah. See, we have the opposite sort of situation, because the second everything is fine until the second we start playing sometimes, and then they're just like, and then things start to click. They look at me and they're like, you got those squinty eyes and you got that hat on, so you're like,
right. Well, it's in your music.
And you're playing.
It's in your music. It's in your music. Yeah. For us, like our music is real blues based, and even the stuff that's like Israeli is like writing like some sort of like kind of slamming backbeat. So yeah, we're very like, yeah, we don't evoke that kind of thing.
Right. See, luckily
you awake the spirit of the camel.
The second
very hostile.
it's kind of, but it's a fun thing that I know that like when we're on stage and like whatever the vibe and the situation is, even if it's like they're prepared for us and they're ready to see us, I know that I hit that first note because we always start our shows with that intro. It's like a way of getting like focused and stuff. The vibe is going to change. You know what I'm saying? And like,
Yeah.
And it's a big thing. It's like I have that drone going, and if I choose to be like a major third or a minor third, that first note, that's like, it's fun because no matter what key the song starts in, I'll change the key that not the key, but the mode that I do that intro in is different depending on my mood of the night. Even if the song is major or minor, that doesn't matter because
Sure.
I can
You're
always
just playing on a drone, so you can
and I can always, if it's a major key and I've been minor at the very last second, go to that major third, and then the song, or opposite, you fade down and it's fine. So
yeah.
The worst is when I fade the intro with the drone in on the wrong tonic note. That's hard, and then I have to figure out a way of modulating and making a new drone. And those are the ones where I was just like, oh, that was a poor choice right there.
Yeah, you get to those too. So okay, you're touring for a few years. You're just doing that kind of circuit after the whole Warp thing. So what's the next kind of turning point in the band's career?
The jam scene, man.
This is what year?
Man, I'm really bad with time stuff. Say maybe like 2010, 2011 maybe seems to be.
And this is when you start getting like, with Hoplite, right?
We've done festivals like 8, 9, 10 years now. So around that time, that's when, because the original CTS lineup and stuff, none of us had any idea about jam band stuff. We come from totally outside of that. Jeff knows about that, but like we had already been established in the scene by the time he had joined. We had no idea. So like somehow, which I don't remember, we did a couple of jam band things, and people ended up being like embracing it, and being like, okay, there's a scene of people that are embracing it. That's cool. We thought it was gonna be more like but there was no like prog instrumental metal scene when we started off. There was no like gent bands or Animals Leader, Scale the Summit stuff. There was none of that yet.
It's before, yeah.
So there was no instrumental stuff that had crazy. So like we thought we were going to be like our idols are bands like the Paradox Trio and Pachora, and those guys play like New York City jazz clubs and stuff. So that's what we thought we were going to be like a more raucous version of that. But then all of a sudden we just started playing like these kind of bigger things, and it was cool. People seemed to like respond to it. And so the jam thing, that was the big turning point, because then there was a scene. Then there was like then there was a framework of like, oh, there's venues that do that. There's booking agents. And
you guys went with Hoplite, Tom, and those guys.
We've been with a lot of different booking agents over the years, and different managers and stuff. Growing, Jordan, our original drummer's brother, was our manager for a really long time, and that and that was great. And then, so we've had a lot of things where we love our management now and stuff, and so that's one of those things that like you just grow, and it grows over time and stuff, and like you find the people that you like and believe, unless you're like a pop person, unless you like have a lot of like ambitions in the commercial sense, then you want to be like leapfrogging constantly and find, and for this sort of thing where like our music is weird, but we do a thing. We do make a living, and we do have a thing, but it's weird. So like we need someone that is willing to work hard for us and believes in us and that we trust. And so our manager Zach, we love, and like that's important in this scene, be close with the person, in that respect.
Absolutely, and it's for a lot of the musicians that are going to be hearing this and watching this. I think people have this notion that getting management and booking is the answer to all their problems. And that's something that they really need to internalize. It is
in a different world, though. Like the world of being this kind of musician and the world of being like what you thought a band was, or a band that has commercial success, is totally different.
Of course.
I'm sure, bands that are commercially successful on that respect never have to deal with this stuff. But being in a band like this is awesome because you're being like a small business owner.
Yeah, and then this is the thing. You're working with these people are really working for you as opposed to you working for them.
Right. It's a different sort of situation. It's not like this, like you read about Zeppelin and the manager was like, you do this, and it's not like that. It's like we have calls together and we figure out problems, and it's like we delegate tasks, and he'll take a thing and we'll take things, and it's just like we have oversight of everything. There's never going to be a T-shirt that all of us haven't approved. There's never going to be a decision that everyone is not on board on. There's not going to be a mix. You hear stories of bands back in the day just being presented with a mix of an album. Like, here's the mix of your album. Like, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah, that is insanity.
But that's how it was. And they would play arenas, so there's trade-offs, but like,
of course.
It's a different sort of situation, if the first single we put out from this album was 11 and a half minutes long, if we were trying to be one arena playing band, we would be
radio friendly, or maybe 9 minutes.
Yeah, we would have some sort of vast mental issue if that was our goal. If we were like, no, number one, you know what I'm saying with this, you know what I'm saying? There would be something where we weren't seeing. So no, we understand what our goals are, but our goal was to put out our first single to be a cool thing, and that was it. We chose that song. We're like, this song is good. It's 11 minutes. Fuck it, we're doing it. It's us. It's fine.
So, being on the road as much as you have, which is quite a bit, in a lot of rinky-dink kind of situations too, what are some crazy road moments that you've had that come to mind? Interacting with people,
Yeah. So we're, we're even when we were younger and more wild, we were still tame as hell. We're, in many respects. So we're not crazy partiers in that, none of it. We don't have the story.
I just talked to Taylor from Turquoise yesterday, and what I realized is that the tame people are the ones that have the road stories,
right?
Because you're embarrassed to tell them if you're partaking. So it's like if you're on blow and it's somebody else's story because they just saw you wilding out and you're not telling anybody till 20 years later. So we
got some good. So speaking of Taylor, he saved us one of the crazy stories. We had a situation. We played this big gig, a big New Year's gig, and John it was just drastically sick and couldn't play. Like before the set, and we were headlining this, like co-headlining, like with Turquoise, this big thing, and it was me and Jeff just on stage, and the room was filling up with hundreds of people, and it was just me and Jeff. And I remember just telling our tour manager, I was like, all right, you go get Taylor, because we need a bass player. You go get my friend Muhammad from Spiritual Reds, who plays keyboards. You go just get Craig from Turquoise 2 to bring them up. You just track down musicians and have them stand over there so I can see them. And so me and Jeff did 2 songs as a duo with an octave pedal and just shredding and shit like that. And then Taylor came up and was like, yeah, play bass. And then we played bass. And then so we played bass. And then I was just announcing us as being like, this is 2/3 of Consider the Source, 2/11 of Turquoise or whatever. And
that's hilarious.
A salvaged experience that would end up being fun. So that's one of those.
You guys funked it up for the night.
But I remember we were doing this one song in 7, and we didn't tell him because me and Jeff we just do that shit all the time. And he was just grooving this 4/4 thing, and it was really cool because it just kept on being on the beat, off the beat, on the beat, off the beat. Me and Jeff yeah, this is happening as fuck. It was really cool.
That's awesome. All right, more road stories. Give me another.
Man, so let's think of some crazy. So we've had so many just weird, crazy, just
the weird, crazy is beautiful.
Where you're just you wake up at you go to the hotel and there's just the creepy, just drunken girl outside the room that just walks in the room. You have to push her out of the room. That's happened before.
Oh, I gotta love those nights. That's some Motel 6ing.
Multiple bed bug situations where you go into a room. You're like, nah, son. Nah,
well, Dani, and a saxophone player in our band is severely allergic to it, so he's like a bedbug detector. Anytime they swell up like welts.
Well, you guys hooked us up with that Choice Hotel app, man. That's the game changer, man. That's the game changer. We've been on that shit for 2 years now, so it's a quality.
It's incredible.
Hey, quality.
Third night free, all right? That's the way to do it.
It's free hotel because we do Airbnbs on our day off for teaching. Because we all do the Skype teaching. So we do Airbnbs on our day off. And then we do the quality ends and we get those free rooms, man.
That's awesome.
Touring bands. Hotel app.
Absolutely.
Fucking Marbin dropped that knowledge on us.
That's awesome, man. So what's next for you guys? When are you on the road again?
So we have 2 weeks off now. and then we have like 2 weeks of like 4 shows a week, and then we have festival season for the summer.
Right.
There's going to be like a week and a half drawn to the south for like a festival, and then like at the end of summer, early fall, there's going to be like a 2-week tour, and then middle October, we do the next long 6-week tour.
Yeah.
We're going to start working on this album is doing very well, which is cool, and we notoriously place live so much that it's just hard for us to record because it's a long time between albums. But we're trying to be very conscious of not doing
What's
that.
a long time for you?
Before the double album, because we had the drummer situation, that was like 5 years. But then we put out 3 discs, and then it was 3 years between the double album and this. And so and it's not because we don't have a lot of songs, it's just because like it's really hard to find the time. We come off tour and we just need human time sometimes to be like, let's be humans, because like we having.
I love that word for it, human time.
Because there's so much, and like the thing is, as I said,
it's very accurate. I understood immediately.
And we're all such a democratic band.
Yeah.
That means that there are things that each of us may want to do that this is not the right place for.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so like.
That's really hard, actually, like to know that you have like another kind of smaller fire burning to do some music shit that's unrelated.
It is, but it's not. It is, but luckily CTS, we can do parts of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I love playing guitar, acoustic shit. I love doing that. I get gigs for that. We can do a couple of those tunes in CTS. That's great. So I get to do it on the road. John has his duo stuff where he's tapping and moving foot pedals all the time. That shit's amazing. And we have a couple of songs where he can do that too. So it's enough that we can all be awesome, super satisfied with it. And then we have the time to do the other stuff. And, so it's like this last tour was like the best one we've done in terms of like, since we all have a little more time now, we're touring so much, but not so much.
Yeah, you found a sweet spot.
It's great. We're all just like everything is like on a real high level. So we want to keep that going.
That's great.
We'll start writing new stuff real soon, and so we can get back another album out there.
Where's your favorite? Yeah, where's your favorite place for people to check out your stuff online?
Man, that's hard. Like, there's a lot of YouTube stuff. I don't really listen to much of it, so I don't really know how much of it sounds. There's some official videos on YouTube that are great. Bandcamp, you can listen to the new album.
And Bandcamp pays people the most.
Bandcamp is great because you can listen to the album, and then if you want to buy it, you can buy it, and you can kick us some bucks and stuff. And that's great. So that's always a cool one. Live is honestly my favorite place. Come live and then buy the album, or check out the album but check it live, because they're different beasts. Because like live it's different every night. And it's just that there's that fieriness of that it's just like it's going to be different every night.
That's awesome, dude. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us for this.
Thanks for having me.
I really love having you, dude.
Let's cross paths.
Well, I'm sure we will. We keep you're the guys that we keep running into, like wherever we go. It's just like, consider us here, dude. So everybody should definitely check out this stuff. Amazing fretless playing and amazing music, and great band altogether. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Likewise. See ya.
Sure.